What are you
So
gonna
mentioning Steph's team, let's talk about our Warriors. And
do? Oof. Do we have to?
yeah, I know. They're now 3-6.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't won a game on the road yet.
Yep. 0-4 on this road trip.
Yeah, they've been close games. Their
Yeah.
defense is atrocious. And
Yep.
it's interesting. Their offense hasn't looked great, but they're scoring the highest points per game in the league, actually.
Yeah.
But they have to because the defense has been so bad. They lost last night to Orlando 130 to 129. You're like, oh, they only left 130 tonight? So, and what's concerning is, and we've already talked about how, well, Steve Kerr is putting a huge emphasis on the young players and giving them lots of minutes, and not just giving them minutes. He's doing a lineup with like Poole, Wiseman, JaMychal Green. He's not as young, but Moody. Yeah. But he's doing it, and he'll have Steph, Clay, and Draymond all on the bench at the same time.
Yeah.
So it's literally like we're throwing the B squad out there for stretches of every game. And I appreciate that Kerr's trying to throw them in the fire and figure it out. Mm-hmm. But he even said after last night's loss, yeah, we've been doing this and experimenting with it, and I think it's time we have to make some changes because the West is deep and they're 3-6. They're already pretty well behind it. It's one thing if you're leaning around 500, but
right,
they lost to a couple teams that they should kill so far,
right,
on this road trip.
Steph had 39 points on 22 shots last night.
That's the other thing is
that never
Curry
happens.
is putting up numbers
right
similar
Clay
to
played
one
well.
of his Curry's putting up numbers similar to his MVP seasons. He is playing great. So if your best player is playing like an MVP and you're losing games like this, I'm a little concerned. I'm sure we can clean it up with different rotations. Stop doing the like hockey line type of bench roster changes that Kerr's doing, which he acknowledged in the post-game presser. So, yeah, I'm a little concerned. Jordan Poole got that contract. He's had some hot flashes where he looks great and he's hustling on defense, but overall he's been having trouble leading that second unit. That second unit is you sent me the stat last night. When Curry is on the floor, the Warriors have the best offensive rating in basketball. When he is off the floor, I believe it's 118.8 per 100 possessions. So that would be the best offense in basketball right now. When he is off the floor, it's like 92, which is one of or the worst offenses in basketball, or just
that's where the games are lost. That's where the games are lost, right? As soon as he's off the court, as soon as he puts that B squad.
I think I saw overall he's like plus 40 on the floor, and the Warriors are like negative 90 when he's off. It's a huge discrepancy.
Yeah. Right.
So anyway, that's concerning. We need to figure out those non-Steph minutes. And
there's a lot of things concerning. I mean,
James Wiseman, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I saw an analysis. The advanced metrics right now have him as the worst player in the league.
Wow.
Yeah. It doesn't look good.
I think
it's still so early, and we've seen the potential, but man, he needs help out there. Like we can't throw him into the fire that much because it's
a
not
bit
working.
Misleading because I think if you look at talent and skill, and like he's obviously very skilled, right? Like we've seen a lot of flashes from him. We know he's capable of scoring and all of that, but I think in this system with the other players that he's being asked to play with, it's really bad, and his defense is
he's
almost unplayable.
He's a huge defensive liability. I think he has the worst defensive rating in the league right now.
Yeah, I believe it.
And he's 7'1". He's 7'1".
Right.
He also needs to, as a 7+ footer, pull down some rebounds. No excuse.
Yeah, he's averaging about 4 rebounds a game, I want to say.
And just stretches where it's like
in 20 minutes.
A couple Warriors around the basket, he's right there.
Yeah.
And he's not pulling the ball down.
Yeah, I don't know. With him, it doesn't seem like there's a innate feel for the game. And it could be that, he missed a lot of time. He's still getting back. There's a lot of excuses to give him because, he didn't play much his senior year, I believe.
Yeah, he didn't.
Right. So, there's some things that I think definitely have hindered him, but there's also a lot of concern that is he ever going to get to that player that we need while Steph, Clay, and Draymond are still in their primes, or even still with the team.
Well, and the interesting
how long
part
do we have to wait? Right.
Well, and also last year the conversation was, would the Warriors keep those young players, or with Steph playing so well, would they make a trade and bring in a veteran or two and really bolster their roster? And they didn't have to last year, and they got through it, and they won the title. But now that they won that title like that with Steph leading the way, if these young guys are not, and some of them, like Wiseman, are going to be eligible for extensions soon, and that's going to be a weird thing. If it's not looking like it's going to come together by January or so,
when do you pull the plug?
That's going to be a real conversation. Do we trade some of these young guys for a vet? So especially if Curry keeps playing at an MVP level, Draymond's actually looked pretty good overall.
Yeah.
And Clay's getting there. He didn't play all summer too, so people are going to forget. That's why he's rusty too. Yeah. So if that's happening, we're going to hear all about this conversation all over again. And while last year I was like, no, we were rolling fine how it is, we don't need to do it, this looks very different. And I feel like we're really missing Gary Payton II.
I was just going to mention him, even Otto Porter
and Otto Porter Jr. as well.
Yeah.
I mean, strangely, neither of them have played yet for their new teams. They've had injuries.
Right.
I do think this conversation is going to come up, and I'm not sure how I'm going to feel about it. Last year, I was like, "Stay the course. This is good."
Right.
This year, Steph's 34, turning 35.
Can't waste a year like this.
I might be prone to. We got to keep Moses Moody. I like him for the future. Some team might trade a quality veteran that would fit with us for a couple of young experiments who still have potential.
Yeah.
And they could get minutes in a less pressured situation. Playing for the Warriors, they're getting everyone's best shot every night. That's a tough situation for some of the really young players. So we're going to have to see how it plays out. I'm not sure how I feel about it. I think I'm going to feel very differently about it this year than I did last year. I might be leaning towards, let's make a trade. So,
and you know what? I think you're right. I think to judge, because I think it is still a little early to judge that, to make a bold move like that. Because, Kerr did say that he's going to switch some of the rotations around, maybe not do a platoon switch out.
Yeah. Hockey lines. Yeah.
Right. Maybe have Clay and Draymond play with some of the young guys, right? Or, you know what I mean? Or something when you're not having Steph in, just for a little more stability, a little more shooting on the floor with them, some more experience. I think Dante DiVincenzo coming back is going to help. Not a ton. It's not like that's going to turn around and have.
He looked good early on.
He can defend. I think he's a veteran, or at least, a seasoned player. I'd like to see Kuminga play a little more. I don't know what's going on. He's in the doghouse. 3 straight DNPs.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, he's struggled a bit. I don't think he's played nearly as bad as Wiseman has. So I don't understand. I mean, I guess Wiseman is a big, and that's more in need. That position's more in need. But I'd like to see maybe a Looney, Kuminga lineup, right? You got Looney on the back end. You got Kuminga in there. I don't know, something.
Looney continues to be underrated. Looking at the Warriors plus minus, Steph's on top. Next best, Kevon Looney. He's playing great.
Believe it. Yeah. Well,
that's the other thing have been great. If Looney, who is a rock, he played every single game last season, can start to take on a few more minutes. This is where we come into.
It's where you get. It's
this is where we come into. Do we need James Wiseman if Looney and Green can hold the middle together, and Looney is a great rebounder too. I'm just telling you that's where James Wiseman becomes expendable in a trade potentially.
Right. You still got JaMychal Green. We got some other pieces that can kind of fill in.
Yeah, JaMychal Green started off nicely, and then he hasn't looked very good either.
Well, I think the problem is nobody's looked good in that lineup. Nobody's looked good in that 5-man rotation. I don't think it's completely his fault. I think he's covering for a Wiseman, right? You see him lot going over to Wiseman's guy to cover him.
That's also why you can't get too caught up in plus minuses, especially without a huge sample size. It's a great end of season stat or half season stat,
right?
But you got to not overreact. I mean, sometimes they're very honest and they do tell you the truth, but they can be misleading if you're always on the floor with guys who are just sucking it up and
right.
It's not your fault if you're covering, your guy and doing your job, but someone keeps blowing it. So
it's
hard to tell.
You got Ty Jerome out there, and it's not his fault. I actually think he's played decently, but you got him with a bunch of young guys, right? And Jordan Poole, he's a good player. I mean, obviously he had a great year last year. I think he still is a good player. Like, if you had him out there with the starters, he'd be playing excellent. But I think asking him to lead that kind of rotation is really tough. So we'll see. I don't know. I still have a feeling that they're going to pull it together, at least not be, on the outside of the playoffs looking in the way they are now, right? I feel like they're still going to be a top 4 team, ish in the West. And seeding for them doesn't matter so much. You'd like to stay out of the play-in tournament, obviously, but, it's about being healthy and figuring this stuff out come March and April. And they've got a lot of time till then, so we'll see what happens.